There we are.
Okay, here we are. Sorry, we had a little technical difficulty with our Zoom, so we're going straight to Facebook, and hopefully we will have a great streaming. And welcome everyone to the power of the creative mind.
Yes, we've been wanting to do something like this for a while, so welcome. And feel free to ask questions,
Yes.
post comments. We're here to answer any question.
Yes, and we're sorry for the delay. We were supposed to start at 5, but sometimes all our energy, there was so much power that was affecting the computer.
Right.
So welcome everyone. My name is Debra Maldonado, and I'm here with my husband, Dr. Rob Maldonado, and we are the founders of CreativeMind and the developers of the CreativeMind Method. And our mission is to empower you to live your greatest life, understand your mind, and really not let anything stop you. Get out of those old patterns and create with power. And because the world is, there's so much in this world that is beautiful and wonderful, and very little people live a full life, and that's really what we represent. And we want to empower you to live with that passion and purpose in your life.
Yeah, we definitely, our focus is on personal development and coach training. Our mission is to create, let's say, a coach training that trains the best coaches in the world with the best method in the world.
Yes. And our work is based on Jungian psychology, Eastern wisdom, so Vedanta, Buddhism, and then also the latest in neuroscience. Just a little bit about myself. I was a corporate warrior back in the day, and now I am a purpose warrior. And I'm helping, my really mission personally is to help women get out of those limited jobs or the limited ideas of what's possible for them in relationships and career, and have them step into a career they love with someone they love. And you don't have to work with them, but it always works out pretty well when you work together. Right, Rob?
That's right. That's right. I like that. Corporate. You were a corporate warrior.
Corporate warrior to a purpose warrior. Yeah. So welcome everyone.
And should I talk about myself?
No, it's all about me tonight.
And I'm a recovering psychologist in a sense, and I always like to be on the cutting edge, moving the ball forward in psychology. And really, coaching is one of those things that has the opportunity and has the potential to become a new way of understanding our mind, a new way of developing ourselves, a new way of teaching personal development, where anybody on the planet can use it. Especially now with the technology, the internet, we're all connected, and we can reach people anywhere on the planet.
And so tonight we're going to talk about the power of the creative mind. We're going to tell you what the creative mind is according to us and our work, and how we can use it to change our life in a powerful way. So think about a goal that you have in your life, something that maybe you're struggling with, something you want in life that maybe you're not there yet, and you're striving for. And I want you to think about that as we teach, and we're going to give you an exercise to do at the end of the call. We're going to go for about 30 minutes, and we're going to give you an exercise at the end to help you work with what we're talking about. So let's start with, what is the creative mind? Right.
That's a good question, because we don't really know what the mind is first, but we do have some ideas, obviously. And here's where the Eastern wisdom comes in handy. So the way we conceive the mind in the CreativeMind Method is that it's an instrument that allows us to interface with what we call the universe, the world, our reality. But it operates on the principle of a deeper reality, which is consciousness. And what is consciousness? It is essentially everything.
Everything that you could experience.
Yeah, in our model, the universe arises from consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Wherein, as in, let's say, in the typical scientific Western model, it's the other way around. They see awareness, consciousness arising from matter.
Like the brain creates consciousness. So a lot of people that question like the near-death experiences, they say, oh, that's just something that's happening in your brain.
Yeah.
When you die, you're done. And those of you who follow us and follow Eastern thought, you know that, or spiritual people, you know that there's more to you than just your brain. And that's where we're different in a lot of ways. We don't talk about reprogramming your brain because it really is just a small little piece of who we are, right?
That's right. And so we have this conscious universe, which is the first kind of shift that we have to make if we really want to understand ourselves in a true way. Mm-hmm. That we are experiencing this conscious universe, meaning it's awake, yeah. It's alive, it's intelligent. It's not dead matter, as some scientists would lead you to believe. It is a living process that we're experiencing. Then on top of that, we emphasize Jungian psychology because it gives us a personal psychology of transformation. Mm-hmm. So in other words, how do we start to transform ourselves? How do we work with our mind? All that conditioning that we experience from our childhood and our past, and the things that both triggered us or gave us challenges and trouble, as well as the great experiences that we had. All those things condition our mind in a certain way to where it becomes a way of seeing the world for us. And
like you had mentioned in other calls, that it's like a bubble of defenses. Like we grow up this unlimited potential, and then our genetics limit us in some ways. Our family tells us what is possible. Our culture, we go to school and they say, you got to do this and that. You got to fit in with these groups. And this is, everyone around you basically will show you how much money you're going to make, what careers you're going to take. And then that we create this kind of little cocoon around us of our protection. It's what in spiritual philosophy is called the ego. And so the ego, a lot of people think, oh, you hear that term thrown around, but not a lot of people understand what it is. And it's a sense of I. It's a sense of me against the world, me separate from the world. And many different traditions talk about that. And so our process is really taking us from that ego-centered consciousness where we're thinking we're this separate little piece of flesh that's trying to interact with this great universe. And we start realizing that we are that universe. We are that consciousness. We are much more than just the surface. And so if you think about a lot of in Vedanta, they talk about the ocean and the waves. And the individual wave is our individual, basically, soul. And the tip of that wave, that little bubble on the tip of that wave is the ego. So it's like a little tiny piece when actually we're the ocean. And so we get lost in the world. We try to manifest things in the world to make ourselves feel safe. But that ego, all it wants to do is a sense of survival and repeating old patterns. And so when we try to create our life, we have this unconscious pattern of conditioning that stops us from basically doing what's in our best interest. And we wonder why we get into the same old relationships, why we stay stuck in the same old job, or why we keep running up against the same financial problems is because of this ego. And now the ego's not bad. It's just kind of helped us survive when we were younger. But using the creative mind is where we kind of step outside of the ego and really can access a part of our mind that can help us create something new and powerful and more expansive. So
we have the philosophy, let's say the understanding that it is a conscious universe. Mm-hmm. Then we have the personal psychology of transformation that allows us to work with our own shadow, our own conditioning, our own unconscious mind so that we can start to transform the way we see ourselves and the way we experience reality. Then the third element of the Creative Mind Method is the mindset, because we still have to operate in the world. We still have to live in the world of computers and jet planes and traffic jams and all this good stuff. The mindset, what it does, it gives us a practical way of applying that deeper wisdom that comes from Eastern philosophy, the Upanishads, and it allows us to channel the energy that comes from Jungian psychological transformation, becoming a soul in a way. And then the mindset allows us then to apply all that knowledge and all that transformation in a practical way to creating businesses, creating new ways of relationships, and doing the things that we need to do. Have fun in the world.
And I think where I fell off, like when I was doing personal development, when I first started, I think a lot of it is just mindset, like we're taught like how to use our mind, how to think positive, how to do vision boards, how to visualize, how to hold our focus, how to write down our goals. And those are all great. But what happens is that we have to go a level deeper and say, who is the person that's thinking these thoughts, that's imagining these thoughts? Why do I want these things? So we have to ask ourselves those deeper questions. And the other layer deeper than that is, what space are we creating in? And so if you don't have the answer to the lower questions, you can use mindset all you want, but you're going to just be what I call rearranging the furniture, because understanding on a deep philosophical level that you are the creative mind, that you are the mind of God, the mind of the divine, that you are connected to everything in the universe and anything is possible. If you don't have that assumption or knowing on a deep level, you can do all the mindset work you want, but you're going to still feel like that money's outside of you. I'm going to attract that lover outside of me, the ideal partner. And that's why a lot of people, especially now, I don't know if you know this, but the research is showing that people are getting tired of the whole law of attraction stuff. I mean, The Secret was great when it first came out. Was it 15 years ago? When we first met, it came out. It was like a long time ago.
And the earth was still covered in ice.
And it was like the big hoopla. And then what happened was people are just like losing, they didn't have the deeper knowledge. And so they were trying to apply the mindset and doing their little, rituals, but it was empty if on a deep level you don't understand who am I and what is the consciousness that I'm operating under. And those are the questions we answer in the Creative Mind Method, is this idea that there's something more to you, and to know that, it makes all that other stuff, the mindset stuff, easy. If you don't know that, it'll feel as though the mindset work that you're doing feels exhausting. Another thing too that I want to say is, when we think about who we are, a lot of people think, and I did this for many years, that something was wrong with me, that if I wasn't getting the things I want, there must be some kind of wound or something broken in me that needed to be fixed in my mind or my psyche in order for me to have what I want. And one of the main things that we teach is that you're not broken. The way we got conditioned in life, the defenses that we put up, the reasons why we don't have what we want, is based on a healthy mind. The mind of, maybe early on where you needed those defenses. But as we get midlife in our 30s and 40s, we start to think, well, we want more. And that's where we have to break away from that conditioning and what Jung called individuation. So we want to definitely underscore that this is not about healing your childhood and then you're going to get everything you want. It's more about understanding, where is the misalignment, misperception of my own self, and how do I know my soul, and how do I know the power that I truly have to create my life. And then when you get into a relationship, you're not thinking they're outside of you and they're someone that's going to bring you love, or the money's going to bring you comfort, or the career's going to give you satisfaction. It's coming from inside out versus out there, I need to pull it in. So it's a much different type of way to work.
So how do we access this creative mind?
How do we, Rob? Tell me. You're the doctor.
We have to import it from India. No. Yeah. On the contrary, the whole idea of our work is that you don't have to go anywhere. special. You don't have to stand on your head unless you want to, of course. Our nature, our very nature is spiritual, in the best sense of the word. And by spiritual, we don't mean religious. We simply mean that our mind is designed to help us transcend our limited mind. So we have this survival mind that helps us survive. We call it the ego. And the ego operates instinctively from the time that we're born until early adulthood. It's developing itself and it's creating this persona and this way of surviving in the world. But it has its limitations because it's all about me, I, we all know that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It helps us survive. But if we don't go beyond that, if we don't work with our mind somehow, if we don't go deeper, like Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. It's essentially because you remain stuck there. You start to think that that's all there is. And that's when people hit that wall. They start to think, maybe I did things in the wrong way, or something went wrong in my life, or like you said, there's something wrong with me, and they start to think that that's a possibility instead of saying, well, there's this higher knowledge that comes from kind of looking inward, right? That introspection, looking into our mind, examining what is it that what is this thing that we call our mind? What is the nature of it? How does it create our reality? How does it work? So that we can direct it instead of it directing us.
I think of the creative mind. If you think about your conditioned mind, it kind of creates like a filter over what you think is possible, and that filter is filled with all the things that everyone told you in your life of how the world is, how and implied too, like your parents imply if they didn't have a lot of money, you see through a filter of there's not enough out there. You have to work hard to get money. If you see relationships around you that aren't really loving and like they look like in the movies, the happy ending movies, you start to see your life through that filter, and then the experiences you have like build on that filter, and then pretty soon your mind is not seeing what's possible, it's just seeing what it believes is there. And so there's studies in neuroscience, the study of perception is that they actually prove that a person will see what they believe versus what is true. And so the reality, even in quantum physics, they have the double slit experiment, right?
Ooh, you're gonna go there.
Where the observer actually, the matter changes based on what the observer sees. So we know that there's a lot of science and even Eastern thought around this idea of perception, and so did studies of psychology, just how we fall into the same patterns. And so imagine that filter is covering the creative mind. Now the creative mind, if it only has the filter to focus on, if it's this narrow little space, it's only going to create from the past. So it's always working. It's not like you don't have the creative mind, you have to turn it on. It's there, but it's only creating more of the same. And so the process is really understanding that filter, starting to open up the curtains and going, ooh, maybe there is a new possibility. And this is where inventions happen. Like if you think about Einstein, he came up with the theory of relativity, not from logic, not from studying numbers. He wasn't even actually a great mathematician. He said it was...
Compared to me, he was.
Yeah, that's true. Compared to me too. But through imagination. So he would imagine himself riding a light beam at the speed of light and understanding. He understood how material world universe was working based on using his imagination. So he was able to peel back the logic and what's been done before and go into that imaginary space. And how many times have we done that? How many times have we imagined what it would be like to win the lottery, or imagine finding that soulmate, or imagine, really being successful, having a seed of an idea and starting to implement it and putting it into action. where did that come from? Where did those inspiration? If you've ever, like, if you're a writer, where do the stories come from? If you're into, storytelling, where do they come from? Where does that art come from? It comes from the creative mind. And a lot of artists will say they need to kind of move that filter out of the way so they can create something new. And so that's really what it is. It's a discipline of understanding what the filter is, what's this conditioning, peel it away so you could really see clearly. And it's almost like a direct experience of creation and consciously directing your life versus letting the filter dictate what you see. And that filter hides all the possibilities. Actually, a good example of this is so many people, I've done a lot of work in love for a long time with my book, Let Love In. A lot of people, when they started doing this work, they said, the guy that I'm supposed to be with, he's been in my life already for 20 years, and I just didn't even look at him. He was my best friend, and I never saw him as my love. And then as they did the work and they saw the conditioning and saw the misinformation, the misperception, the person was there already. So if you're looking for love, that person could be right in front of you right now. Or if you're looking for that business opportunity or growing your business, if you're in your own business, or looking for your purpose, it's already there. It's already created, and that filter is just hiding it. Yeah.
Yeah, so some people ask very specifically, like, how do you actually do it? Like, where do you start? Mm-hmm. One of the starting points is really with triggers. Mm-hmm. Both positive and negative, because we can be triggered by, let's say, people we admire. Mm-hmm. We think, well, there's somebody I'd like to emulate, or people that trigger us emotionally, meaning that
they irritate us.
They irritate us in a sense, or they trigger us emotionally. It's a great way to start, or a great place to start, because what it's showing us our unconscious mind, our unconscious conditioning. And if we know what we're seeing, that is, if we have the understanding, then we're able to take advantage of those emotional triggers to transform our mind.
So I want to underscore something really important, because it's something to really drill it, that what you just said home. Our conditioning is emotional. Our conditioning is emotional. And every choice we ever make is emotional, whether aware of it or not. It's emotional. And when we're triggered, it's a way to kind of touch that unconscious program, that unconscious. And if Jung says, without emotion, there is no transformation. So your conditioning is emotional. And a lot of people have great insights. They say, I figured out my patterns. Mm-hmm. I know that because my dad wasn't there when I grew up. I go for men that are traveling all the time. Or the reason why I don't have money is because I think money is the root of all evil. That is not going to, and just changing that thinking is not going to change anything. It may maybe create something, but with placebo. But truly, you have to get into the emotional root. You have to kind of get in there. And this isn't healing the emotion. It's just understanding. You're seeing the edges of that condition. You're like bringing it to consciousness and going, ooh, that's interesting that this woman is really triggering me, because I'm really afraid of being out there in public. And she is bold and forward and everyone's getting all the attention. And that trigger is showing you where you're holding back, what you fear. Or when you do have problems with finances, and you get triggered with looking at your bank statement, you're seeing where your mind is conditioned to only feel good when the bank account is high and to feel bad when it's low, and how it's associated with your worth. So there's so much information and emotion, and that's really the key.
Another place that we start or like to start in is dreams. Dreams, like Freud himself said, it's the royal road to the unconscious mind. It gives us direct access to the unconscious mind, but it's coded. It's speaking symbolic language, which most people do not understand or don't have any knowledge of or practice interpreting or speaking the symbolic language. But with some training, with some understanding the basic symbolism and how the unconscious mind speaks and creates images and symbols, we can start to decipher those unconscious messages, or those messages that are coming through from the unconscious mind. And the way Jung saw it is that the unconscious is always trying to balance us out. In other words, it's giving us valuable information all the time, but if we don't pay attention to it, obviously, we're missing the opportunity for growth.
So this part of our mind that's creative think of it as the part that's putting the foot on the gas, that's pushing you forward, that wants to grow, that wants more life, more love, more success, more experiences, more happiness. And then the ego, which is saying, this is good enough. Let's just stay here. So that's the foot on the brake. And so the dreams will show you where you're putting on the brake. The emotions will show you where you're putting on the brake. And then with the use of visualization, you can work with your mind to understand what the deeper emotion is, how to shift it, and then also how to start visualizing what you really want. And when you clear that like filter, that kind of the pattern of past, and you have that opening, when you're visualizing now in that place with the creative mind has a direct power. It's not going through that, like it's like a dam that's not broken, things just start to flow much easier, and you're happier, and you're less stressed, and you're less looking for that external to give you peace. You know that you already are the peace, and you're bringing peace to and power to everything that you do. And so it's really a spiritual shift from being an ego, defensive little human being, to being the greatest image of who you really are, which is divine and unlimited. So
the third element that I wanted to mention is visualization. So if the unconscious is giving us messages, in other words, it's sending messages to the conscious mind, the conscious mind can speak back to the unconscious through visualization using the same symbolic language. So you create a two-way communication system between your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. That is real transformation now. And it's very organic. It's essentially, Jung believed that we're designed to undergo this process, very much like a caterpillar is designed, it's encoded already in their genes to become this other creature, a butterfly. Essentially, we are born as biological creatures, but we're meant to become spiritual beings.
We are spiritual beings. We're just don't realize it.
But you have to undergo this transformation. In other words, it's not just, okay, I'm born and that's it. You have to undergo that metamorphosis. And that's what individuation is. And that's what the creative mind process is based on, is can we use the coaching model or a coaching model to help people undergo that transformation? Yeah,
so it's not therapy, it's not reprogramming your ego, which is a lot of what you see out there in personal development. It's reprogramming the ego. It's making the ego think more positive, be more confident, but you're really not working with the unconscious in a way. It feels like you're like limiting beliefs. That's all stuff you're conscious of already. You know what you're thinking, but there's another undercurrent, like the unconscious undercurrent and the emotional undercurrent that's really driving everything. So it's beyond thought, and it's more of a self-realization. It's a self-awareness that comes to the creative mind. Now, I want to take you through, before we go, a process, just a really quick thing you can do to start to understand the creative mind versus the limited mind, because it's always with us. And there's a presence within us, that awareness that's always there. It's always been there, but we don't pay attention to it because our mind is so noisy. Remember all the filters. And so I want you to think about a goal you have, something really big. Like find the love of your life, have a child if you're trying to have kids, move to a dream home in, the island somewhere, get the star role in a movie, whatever it is, something really big that you kind of know you want, that you seem it's kind of possible, but it feels like almost like really big. Like it's like, wow, I don't know if I can do this, but something you know that you're striving for. And I want you to just close your eyes for a minute. And I want you to imagine that you are having that experience, that you are in the place where you want to be. And at first, you may feel really good, that this wonderful, wonderful state of getting your heart's desire. And then if you just pull yourself back a little bit from the fantasy, you'll notice that what your mind is doing is it's going to start pushing back and telling you how it's not possible. It's going to tell you, remind you of all your failures in the past or heartaches in the past. It's going to tell you, and that's the ego. And then there's another aspect of you that feels like, yeah, but I want it. It's like a pure desire. It doesn't have words really. It's just like, but I want this. I really do. I really want love. I really want this success or whatever you're striving for. And there's that battle between the two. And you can start to see the filter. And I want you to pay attention to the story that your mind is telling you. Pay attention to the limitations. And I want you to get really familiar with them. And if you pay attention closely, you're going to start to see that it's nonsense. The mind is just really just giving you a bunch of excuses, and it's trying to scare you. And that's just the job of the ego. It's like, and it's the voice of your parents probably to be reasonable, right? Be, don't get your hopes up. I heard that a lot. Don't get your hopes up. Be practical, be realistic. People around you will reflect that to you. And it's just, that's where you're seeing the two parts of your mind, the divine that wants you to have these experiences and the pushback. And so the real key is to not let that pushback drive your actions, hold you back, or cause you stress. And how can you be with that mind? Because you can't clear this away. You can't magically erase these thoughts. They're going to be there no matter how successful you are, how much in love you are. That voice of ego doesn't go away. But you can't tap it away. You can't tap it away. You can't heal it away. But you can learn to live with it and not buy into it. It's like that, kind of that relative that's kind of annoying that comes to Christmas every year, and Aunt Betty's going to be there. We all know we're just going to have to sit through dinner and deal with her. But you don't let it bother you anymore, because you kind of it's just there, and that's just part of life. And we have to accept that our ego is trying to do something good for us, but it's just outdated, and to not let it drive anymore. And so practice that. Just notice the two parts of your mind.
Awesome.
And then before we go, we want to invite you, if you are single and you are looking to create great love in your life, or you could be in a relationship and you want it better and want to learn more about relationships, we have a free Facebook group. Well, it's free, so all Facebook groups are free. A Facebook group called Love and Purpose with the Creative Mind, and there'll be a link below, but it's also on our page. Just push the button, join group, and we'd love to see you in that group. We're going to be doing some live trainings. On Thursday, we're going to do a video training on boundaries. And next week, starting on Monday, we're going to do 4-part series on a purpose-driven love. How do you use the creative mind to go in a deeper level, to look at your shadow, and a real great deep experience of this work. I know this is a brief introduction. And so if you feel like there's something here for you, this sounds intriguing, I want to learn more, there's no cost. You just join the group, and we're doing these trainings absolutely free for you. And we'd love to interact with you, to meet you, and explore this wonderful mind that we have to create our life. Yeah. But before we go, if there's any questions, please post them below. That was great, huh?
Yeah. Our favorite thing is to talk about our process. So we could be here all night, but thanks for tuning in. If there are no questions, we hope to see you in the Facebook group. Love and Purpose with Creative Mind. Yes. And if not, we'll see you next time.
Yes, and remember that with you, anything is possible. And I know there's a lot of that out there, but truly the way to have that impossible life that no one thinks that you can have is to understand who you are on a deep level and understand how the world, the consciousness of this planet works and how you're a part of that. And so this one person just said, for the last 5 years, I've tried to start my coaching business and I couldn't. Well, everything's going to change. And I think maybe trying might be.
Any words of wisdom?
Well, trying.
Sure.
Maybe you tried to start it, but maybe you didn't believe you could. So the word tried means that you expected failure. Very subtle.
That's right.
I'm trying to do it. When you try to do something, that means maybe it'll work. It's you have to have a mind of certainty. And, the reason why we don't get what we want is because unconsciously the ego doesn't think it's a good idea. So there's something that is stopping you. It's not that there isn't enough business out there or that you're not a great coach or that you don't have what it takes. It's more of that there's something that you don't want it to happen. And so to find out what that is, just start thinking about that idea. Start thinking about you being a successful coach and what's the pushback? What's the mind telling you? Do you believe what the mind is telling you? And a really great question to ask yourself is, why do I believe this is not possible for me? What's the rationale? Like really start examining it instead of just taking it for, well, I tried it, it didn't work, so it can't be possible. What's the rationale? Because something didn't work in the past, how does that dictate what's possible in the future? You have to start questioning why you believe what you believe. It's more of a deeper question than just why do I think this, but why do I believe what I believe?
Yeah, it's an incredible thing because the way we experience reality, it feels to be out there. It feels like we're observing an objective reality. But the true nature of mind is that it's more like our mind is a projector. It's projecting the movie of what we call our life onto the screen of the universe. And that's what we're experiencing. We're the writers, we're the actors, we're the directors of that movie. But of course, if you don't understand the nature of the mind, you think it's out there, right? I will only be happy when external things line up for me. When I create that business, then I'll be happy. But it's the other way around. When you work with your mind and you're able to create in your mind that vision, that true purpose and vision of your business, then you'll see it out there. It starts in the mind. The mind is the cause. The cause is not out there in the world. It's your mind.
And the comment was, even now, for some reason, I can't start. Think of can't means won't. Can't is, there's no can't. You can. It's just that you won't. And you have to, and not consciously, you have to ask yourself, why won't you? Why won't you start this process? And I could tell you a very common reason why women and men don't start coaching businesses or don't go out and start their own business is because of exposure. They don't want to be out there. They don't want to, they're afraid of like someone disappointing someone. And really the conditioning of the ego wants you to stay the same. So doing something new is such a stretch. But the stretch of doing that, stepping out, becoming a coach, starting a business, doing what you love, for having the love that you've never had before, it stretches you to access more of who you are. And so instead of using it to your personal development to start your coaching business, use your coaching business challenge to grow. Yeah. And then that's really where it works. A lot of people are like, well, let me do my personal development so I can get the end result, so I can get more money, more love. You want to use the challenge that you have in your life to understand yourself, and then you get those other things. But if you put your growth first, then you'll never lose, because you can't lose in growth. You always learn, you'll always grow. Yeah. And so it gets that attachment out of the way as well.
It's one of those universal principles.
Yes. So I hope that helped. It's so great to see everyone in the group. Hello to everyone. Ooh, is hypnosis still a good format to clear limiting beliefs? Well, I've done hypnosis for many years, and you really can't clear the negative belief, because think about it, everything has two sides, a positive and negative. You can't clear one half of something. Like, I'm good enough and now I'm not good enough. Like, those are two sides of a coin. So you can't clear one side of the coin off. So you have to go deeper than the belief itself and who's the I that identifies, and say, who is the I that that believes that? It's really more a deeper assumption. I know that I've done a lot of work with hypnosis, and it does help you think more positive, and you get a better result in life. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's the idea that you can clear it is really not really true. It's not scientifically true and psychologically true. You can't erase a belief or erase a memory. If you think about Eastern philosophy, there's a duality there. So you have to go to the assumption underneath that belief. That's really what you need to do.
Yeah, that's a fascinating topic, the whole idea of hypnosis. I think we just did a podcast on it. So if you have a chance, check out our podcast.
Yeah, we talk about that. Yeah, I know it's very popular in self-help is to clear the limiting beliefs. My book, Let Love In, a lot of it was about limiting beliefs. And then when we started doing the Jungian work and going deeper into the Eastern philosophy, we started realizing that there's another layer. The limiting beliefs basically is the ego, and reprogramming the ego. And again, you get a shiny ego, it works really well, it helps you function, but there's another level of consciousness that you can go to where you don't even have to worry about that, where you're transcending the ego altogether and you're really coming from that creative mind. Awesome. Yes, and I don't want to be responsible and exposed, that is correct. Yes. And the idea of, I think the girl that's commenting about afraid to start the coaching business and afraid of love, they're connected. They're both about being exposed and being responsible. A lot of people stay out of relationships because they don't want to be responsible for someone else's feelings, right? Because we make them responsible for our feelings, and then we feel like we have to keep them happy. And it's such a burden to go into a relationship feeling you have to make the other person happy. So
I've heard.
So anyway, hypnosis is we just did we haven't released it yet, so it's not available yet.
It'll be out soon.
Yeah, but hypnosis is a state of mind. It doesn't do anything to the mind. It's just a calming. It's a meditative state, and then the process that happens in the state it depends on what kind of thing you do. But if you think about it, if you're one with everything and you're clearing something, how can you get rid of anything? Because you can't really get rid of energy, right? You can't really, from a scientific place, how can you get rid of something? And then if you do, where does it go? So we're kind of deep here.
The universe.
Yeah, I know. The mind, where's the trash? Is there those things floating around? The space trash. That's where all our limiting beliefs that we cleared go away. But yeah, it just, I did that work for many, many years, but I found that it was very limiting because I was still attached to, if I believe I'm good enough, then people will like me out there, versus going deeper to, I don't have to believe I'm good enough if I know that I'm the divine self. I don't have to convince my ego that.
Right.
It becomes natural. You'll find it much easier.
Yeah, both Jung and Freud used hypnosis initially in their therapy work. And both abandoned hypnosis for more of a talking approach. So that's essentially the creative mind process or method as well. It's more a coaching model that takes you through a process that gives you the same result as hypnosis, meditation, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and hypnosis is when you're in guided visualization or even daydreaming, you're in a hypnotic state. So it's a very cool thing. But yeah, pay attention to our call on hypnosis, our podcast coming out in a couple of weeks. We just did that. So very fascinating. And I used it a lot for helping people quit smoking and lose weight and have babies without pain. It's really good for that altered state, is really good for the body and healing. But when it comes to emotional stuff, it's still, you have to go a little level deeper. It's just what's helped me. And then think about beliefs are more the logical mind, the thinking mind. And remember, the programs that we have, the conditioning is through emotion. So not through thought, it's through emotion. So a lot of people interchange that, but the emotion is really the root. So I promise you, you'll go deeper with the emotion than you would with just clearing beliefs. And yeah, we're here to help. So thank you so much for all your comments. We'll see you in the group Love and Purpose with the Creative Mind. And I'll post the link in the comments below. And you can also see it here on this page. Just push the join the group button right on top of our page, and you'll get in there and request to join, and we'll let you in.
All right.
All right. Take care, everyone.
See you
Have a
next
great
time.
night.
Take care.
Bye-bye.